Composing Gloves here. This is the first video in Music Theory Essentials. The goal of these videos is to take you from knowing no music theory to enough to compose adequately with your knowledge. If you've ever been composing and you've gotten stuck, maybe you want a better melody, more interesting chord progression, or you just have a wrong note you're trying to find, music theory can help you solve these problems. I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of producers get into music production and they know nothing about music theory at all, and as a result they're very ignorant on a lot of topics that musicians would sort of kind of chuckle at them about. So I'm here to hopefully help you create some more interesting productions to make your things not unnecessarily complex but interestingly complex, if that makes sense. So I'm going to teach you using written music. I actually, if you look here, composinggloves.com, it's my website. You can go and download this template for sheet. This is actually called staff paper, and print it out, and you can actually follow along. It's totally free. And I'm going to teach you using the written music because it is the easiest way I found to learn and to teach and to practice, because when you have to write it out, you're forced to be conscious of every move that you're making instead of letting a computer program do it for you. But there are some computer programs like Finale and Sibelius that you'll probably want to move to if you intend to stay with this method of writing down music, because a lot of you are probably using the piano roll and some sort of a DAW, and these things are directly, you'll see all the correlations with the DAW when you use this. Like, you'll understand like what the grid is and exactly what it represents and all those types of things, and that's why I've chosen to do this way. I feel like it's the most complete way of understanding what we're going to say here. So we're going to start off right from the ground. We're going to start off with just the base core of what we need, and we're going to move all the way up through chords, some basic chords and cadences. That's probably where I'll stop for a while unless I feel like I should come back and do some more. So to start off, we have these lines here, and this is called our staff. Now if you wanted to write down music, you'd probably go about it with some sort of a grid, just like how they did in the piano roll. Well, they thought along the same lines. This staff is a grid of 5 lines, and you can put symbols on these lines that represent segments of time. Now your time moves across on your x-axis, and you go down in the end of one staff and you start at the beginning of another, and that's how you read music. You're probably already familiar with that, but it's important to think of it like this, like that grid, because it will help you sort of discover how this happened. So there's a whole bunch of different things they tried messing with this grid, and one of them was this thing called the bar line. So you have these lines that you just draw, and it cuts up our staff. So let's make sure we label our staff. So these are our staffs, or staves, and these are our bar lines. And these separate up segments of our staff. So we could label them as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now some musicians will say that's 4 bars, and they'll refer to things like that. But the correct term for the space between two bar lines is called a measure. So this is a measure, okay? And in our measure, we have this thing called the beat. Or in our entire song, we have this thing called the beat. Right? This beat is our segment of time that if you were divided up into a bunch of tiny segments that were equally spaced apart, that's how fast our song would be. So if we had a song going at 60 beats per minute, oh, that's my brother playing the bagpipes, don't know if you can hear that. You have 60 beats per minute, that is basically saying it's like a clock. Every tick, every second is 1 beat. But if you went slightly faster, like 61, now it's not exactly with your clock anymore. But that's the idea behind beat. It controls how fast your song is, and these measures contain a certain number of beats. They'll declare it using something called the time signature. But for now, we're going to skip that. We're going to go straight to just declaring what's in there. So we're going to say there's 4 beats in a measure. Like in most music, that's the case. Unless you're getting into classical music, then it could be just about anything. But if you're getting into popular dance music, it's pretty much 4/4. So let's go ahead and move over here to the symbols that would go on the staff. Because these symbols, now we have to find out a way to divide these 4 beats into something that we can interpret as a music. So we're going to use this thing we invented. It's great. They're called notes. We're going to just talk about note values. We're not going to talk about notes as in where they fall on the staff and stuff yet. That is another video. So we have this thing called the whole note, and we call it the whole note, and it takes 4 beats. So these things always remain consistent. So this is always 4 beats. So, well, for basicness sake, we're just going to leave it at that. So we have this thing called the whole note, takes 4 beats, and in our staff, it has 4 beats. So this would take our entire, in our measure. So this would take our entire measure, and it just looks like a circle, just like that. That is what it looks like. They can go on spaces or on lines. It's important to put them on centered around something though, because if you have it kind of like in between a space and a line, you'll confuse musicians on what note they're supposed to play. Okay, then you have this next thing. It's called the half note. Looks like this or like this, and we'll write down half note, and it gets 2 beats. Each note does. So it would take 2 of these to fill up 1 staff. Why do I keep saying staff? It'll take 2 of these to fill up 1 measure, okay? And you'll notice that there's a note head and a note stem. Again, you want to circle your note head around something, and then the stem, the skinny part, it must go down on your left side and up on your right side. If you do it any other way, musicians will freak out and they'll say this is the devil's work, and they'll go after you, unless they're like into the devil, and they'll say this is God's work, and they'll go after you. Okay, you can't mess that up. They'll freak out. Just a note if you intend to give them handwritten music. And then the next one is called the quarter note, and it's called the quarter note because it gets 1 beat. Your stems shouldn't go off at an angle like that either, but I'm drawing kind of quick. So this is our quarter note. It gets 1 beat. So it would take 4 quarters, so that's why it's quarter, 4 of these to fill up 1 measure of 4 beats. Okay. Then you have this thing called the eighth note. It's equivalent to 2 of our, let me make that bigger. It's equivalent to 2 quarter notes. 2 of these is equivalent to 1 quarter note. Okay, so 2 eighth notes equals 1 quarter note. 2 quarter notes equals 1 half note. See where we're going here? 2 half notes equals 1 whole note. And 2 whole notes equals something crazy, like a double whole note or something weird. So you'll notice on our quarter note that our note head is filled in, and that's how you differentiate between a half note and a quarter note. Well, on our eighth note, we'll just draw 1/8 to symbolize eighth. It looks like a quarter note, but it's got this flag. And again, the flags have to be just so if it's going up or if it's going down. If you do it any other way, people will shout and scream and yell, and they'll come after you to destroy you. So make sure that you do this correctly. And another convenient thing is, in a measure of 4 beats, it takes 8 quarter notes. So in 4/4, that's how many it takes. Okay. 4/4 meaning there's 4 beats in a measure. Okay. I'm trying not to say things that I just take for granted right now. Then you have this last guy. He's called the 16th note, and he gets 2 flags, and that's how you know he's a 16th note. And there's 2 of him in every 1 eighth note, and so on and so forth. So these are your notes, and you can combine them in all sorts of various kinds of ways to create your song. But you need something else. You need something to tell them to be quiet. I'm sure we've all wanted to give people instruction on how to just be quiet and when to be quiet, and they've invented that in music. They call it rests. And basically it's just the command to be quiet. And each one of these has a counterpart. So our whole rest, the rest worth 4 beats, looks like this. It looks like a little rectangle that's hanging down from the second line. And if it's not in that spot, again, you're doing something completely wrong. Now, and with rest, they could be moved around. Notes are always moved around up and down because they're the notes. But if you have rest, it's usually in the same exact spot so that people know where to look. But if you have notes in weird spots, you may need to move your rest up or down. But it's hardly ever the case. So just by rule of thumb, just keep it right here. And this is your whole rest, 4 beats. Now for your half rest, just so you know, these bars are not accurate. As you can see, there's a lot of leftover space because this only fills up one beat. So we still have 3 beats left over on our 8th note measure here. You're not allowed to do that in music. That's also the devil's work. Don't do that. So I'm just showing you what the notes look like and separating them with bar lines. Okay, we're not writing a piece of music right now. So that's our whole note. Here's our half note. It looks like that. And it takes 2 of those. It's equivalent. This is worth 2 beats. This is worth 4 beats. This is worth 2 beats. These are our half rest. This is our whole rest. And here is our quarter rest. Now our quarter rest looks like some funky sort of thing. I don't know. I usually just do the weird looking Z. Go look up quarter rest and you will see what I mean. It just looks insane. But it's worth 1 beat. It's equivalent to our quarter note. And just draw some sort of lightning bolt type thing and people will know what you mean about the quarter rest. They're forgiving on that one because it's like, well, you are a special person if you can draw one of those. And you probably need a calligrapher's pen. So our last 2 are our 8th notes. That is an 8th note rest. That's what it looks like. It's equivalent to to our duration of an 8th note. So 2 of these fit in 1 quarter rest, and so on and so forth. 4 of these fit in 1 half rest. And then the last one looks something like this. This is our 16th note rest. Okay, and as you combine these different things together, you will start to create rhythms in music because your tempo is consistent. So our tempo is how many beats are in a measure divided evenly. So it creates a pulse for us. Some people start off teaching it, calling it pulse, not calling it beat. But, you know, that's up to them. I choose to teach it as beat. So, yeah. So we'll talk about that more as we go along. But that is it for this lesson. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Go to my website, download this file so that you too can begin to draw quarter notes and rests and look really cool to your friends. And you'll be the producer who knows a little bit about what he's doing. If you enjoy these videos, subscribe. Check out my music on composinggloves.com and have a blessed day.